Welcome back. In our final segment today, we're talking with early childhood development specialist Professor Ronald Ferguson of Harvard's Kennedy School on how parents can best prepare their young children for a life of academic achievement that goes beyond test preparation. For the past several years, Professor Ferguson has been focusing on the work of his nonprofit organization, The Basics Incorporated. It's a program that teaches parents the 5 basic principles for getting your child ready to learn. Welcome, Professor Ferguson. Thank you for joining us.
Great to be here.
I just want to follow up on something we heard in segment 2, which kind of intersects in a way with what you're saying. Rachel Meiselman and her group are arguing that they want all Boston school kids to be prepared to achieve so that certain kids don't have to rely on exam school tests, admissions, et cetera.
Right.
Could you speak to that point about, making sure all students have the ability to achieve?
Yeah, I mean, as a community, we care about all children, and our kids go to all the schools in the system, but they also live a lot of their lives outside of school. And so children grow up in what we think of as social ecologies, and they're sometimes with their friends, sometimes with their parents, sometimes their cousins, sometimes at school, and in all those places, we want them to have the types of experiences that give them a combination of what my co-author Tatcha Robertson and I called smarts plus purpose plus agency. So the smarts is about preparing them to do well on tests and that kind of stuff. A purpose, though, is about being about something, having interest in your life, having aspirations. And agency is a propensity to actually take action. It's sort of the opposite of a sense of helplessness, right? And adults can help to cultivate those qualities not only in school, but also at home, at church, and all the other places where kids live their lives.
So Ms. Meiselman's point was aspirational, to have all kids have access to this kind of education. It certainly doesn't exist today, but your program, The Basics, is suggesting that there might be a way to reach that goal.
Yeah, it's fascinating that what kids experience in the womb matters, right? And so from the moment they're born, there are things that we can do to help support brain development. I mean, the human brain doubles in size in the first year, up to 70% of its adult size, and it's 80% by age 3 and 90% by age 5. And the quantity and quality of brain development that happens over that period depends upon the nature of interaction that children have with their social environment. Okay, and we have what we call the 5 basics of early childhood parenting. Okay, the first of the basics is maximize love, manage stress. The more we shield our babies from stress and express affection, the stronger their self-control skills become. The second is talk, sing, and point. The nature of verbal interaction, pointing at what you're talking about, for example, helps babies understand that words correspond to objects. Count, group, and compare. Playing number games with a toddler helps them figure out the numbers, the word that 4 is 4 of something. It's not just the word you say before 5. Explore through movement and play is about helping parents to understand that playtime is discovery time. And a parent can be a learning partner during that time. And read and discuss stories is about helping parents understand that you want to actually interact with the story. You want to get the child to respond to it. And with an infant, it's not even really about reading. It's about pointing to the bright colors and speaking with expression and having that warm, cozy feeling. So there's a cultivation of a love of learning and exposure to the world. I mean, books expose kids to things that they don't encounter in everyday life, both the language in the books, but the images and the subjects the books cover. So there's a lot that we can do starting when the kids are infants. There's a phrase, serve and return. When an infant, a week-old child can say something like, it's as if they're trying to get your attention, and you want to make a sound back, ideally with real words, and keep it going back and forth like a tennis volley as long as you can. And so all those little things that we do are helping to teach a love of learning. All those little things we do are helping to teach a love of learning. They're producing brain development. They're doing all this good stuff.
So that by the time they get to school, start school, they are in a situation where they're ready to learn.
Right. Well, by the time they start school, all life is learning. That's what you do. And the teacher's just one more adult that you learn with.
This program exists in how many cities around the country? Tell us about some of the results.
We're in more than 50 cities now. We started in Boston. It's called the Boston Basics. But then other cities started to call and say, hey, can we do that too? We had the Chattanooga Basics and the Yonkers Basics. And then the marketing people told us, stop doing that because it sounds like there are lots of different versions of the Basics. Just make it the Basics Boston, or Basics Chattanooga, and so on.
Are there any early results
from?
Are there any early results on some of the successful?
Yeah, I mean, for example, we have free text messaging. It's free to parents, and we have surveys built into the text messaging stream. And we find that the biggest changes in parent-child interaction are for the parents who were the least involved when they started. Mm-hmm. We find that more than 70% of folks say they actually share the messages with family and friends so that other people in their family and friend circle can do the same kinds of things. Mm-hmm. And my favorite number is 84% strongly agree that the messages keep them thinking about how to help their children learn. Mm-hmm. Now, over time, we should start to see changes in kindergarten readiness rates, for example. We're not there yet, but that's the aspiration. And then during the school years, I mean, I have a book called The Formula, Unlocking the Secrets to Helping, Unlocking the Secrets to Producing Highly Successful Children, co-authored with Tatcha Robertson. And in there, we talk about the school years and things that parents can do. And among the most important things there, maybe I should let you ask me this question.
Go ahead.
Among the most important things there are exposing your kid to the world. I mean, it's like life is a menu. Here are all the different things you could be interested in, places to go, kinds of people to grow up to be.
Yeah, this does feed into my last question. Right. How is it best for society as a whole to make sure that we benefit from a more accurate representation of a young person's potential, and what needs to change to identify students' potential to succeed rather than judging them based on tests?
I don't know. I mean, test scores measure one aspect of what people know and can do. I started by saying we care about smarts, purpose, and agency. Okay, test scores don't really even measure smarts. They measure the skills you have at a moment in time and your ability to express those skills at that moment on that particular test. Mm-hmm. So that's what tests measure. Purpose, though, is about aspirations. It's about what one wants to achieve in the world. I mean, I was on admissions committees for 30 years at Harvard, and we don't just select on test scores. Mm-hmm. We select future leaders, and so people need to be able to articulate what their aspirations are. They need to have had some experience actually doing some of the things that they say they're interested in, so that there's evidence that they're actually going to make a difference, that the education you're going to give them is going to lay the foundation for important things they're going to do in the world, right? And so we care about kids' aspirations, and we care about their sort of propensity to get up and go do whatever it is they need to do in order to live out those aspirations. Mm-hmm. And so human beings are multidimensional, and there's no way to know what somebody's going to do with their lives, and admissions committees have to make their best guess.
All right, the issue is complex, and there are no easy answers. Professor Ronald Ferguson, thank you for being here with us today.
Well, thanks for having me.
All right, and thanks to all of you for watching. If you'd like to learn more about the basics and advice for getting your infant or toddler ready to learn and excel academically, visit thebasics.org for more information. And be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at CityLine 5, and you can follow me on Twitter at Karen Holmes Ward. Have a good afternoon, stay safe, and be well.